Hi everyone, thanks for clicking on the video. It's been a couple weeks since I put out a video, so I figured I'd put one out just to keep everybody up to date. See, they're doing some work out there, preparing for a new house. A lot of changes around here. This week's video, or this episode, I'm going to have a few updates on various things. One, of course, the weather. We've been having some crazy weather recently. And probably the highlight of the video will be a very unique wildlife encounter that I had about 2 weeks ago with what's called a fallow deer. More to come on that. I'll briefly talk about composting in the garden and a few other little tidbits, so stick around. On to the main segment. As mentioned about 2 weeks ago on Sunday, which was a day after I posted my previous video, I was out for a walk, as I normally do, and admittedly I was nursing a bit of a hangover, so maybe I wasn't paying quite as good of attention as maybe I normally would, but luckily I looked up at the right time and I saw what's called in English fallow deer. I'll post a couple pictures here of what they look like that I downloaded from the internet. I didn't take these exact photos, but it gives you a clear picture of what they look like. But before I move on with that, I had also in a previous video way last year, I was talking about the kinds of wildlife we have here in Lithuania and the kinds of wildlife we have specifically where I live in Lithuania. And I had mentioned fallow deer, and I had also mentioned that we don't have them here where I live. Well, I guess I was wrong, because we definitely have them. It was a pleasant surprise. First time I've ever seen them. And it was nice to watch. Admittedly, I'll show some clips here in a second, but I do mention often on my channel that sometimes I wish I had a separate camera or a better camera with a zoom. My GoPro has no zoom at all. So some of the clips I took with my GoPro were useless unless I zoom in on them once I download the video. Once you're in the video editor program, you can zoom, but of course you lose clarity on the image. It gets a little blurry, pixelation starts to happen, so that's what's called digital zooming. On the phone or my iPhone, it does have a zoom, which I was able to get some slightly better video clips. But again, not to get too technical on you guys, but even the iPhone, it has what's called a digital zoom versus an optical zoom, which is really what you need. With optical zoom, you kind of see these telephoto lenses and things like that. That's a optical zoom where you don't lose clarity or get that pixelation that you do with digital zooms. But all that being said, considering, I'm pretty glad that I caught it. I did get some of it on film. Again, I wish the film that I had captured was better, but I'll take it, and I'll keep my eyes peeled for those deer. And also, as a side note, I kept walking after I saw those fallow deer, which in Lithuanian, by the way, I think they call them Daniele. But I was walking, and maybe 10-15 minutes later, I saw what are certainly moose tracks. So it was just a few minutes ago that I filmed those beautiful deer, which I mentioned elsewhere in this video. But as I'm walking here, you can see, and again, I've got pretty big hands. You know, this track is darn near as long as my hand. I'm pretty certain it's a moose. It could be an elk, but fairly fresh, as you can see, but definitely not your standard deer. Good to see. This was a pretty good example of moose tracks. They were very recent, as in there were no tire tracks on them, meaning that the moose had been there since the last car had been there, but it was very interesting to see. So back to the weather. Today is Thursday, August 27th. Pretty beautiful day so far. It's still pretty early morning, but they're talking up to 22 today, which in Fahrenheit is about 70. Light breeze, sunshine. Can't ask for much more than that in late August in Lithuania, so we'll take it. But last weekend was a different story. Saturday we had a pretty major storm, and when I say we, pretty much all of the Baltic states, a little bit of Poland, but all of Lithuania certainly. And here I am, hiding underneath some trees. It was bright and sunny when I left the house about 40 minutes ago, and now it's pouring rain. Welcome to Lithuania. It's lost in translation. If you try to translate, it's actually called a cyclone, but nonetheless, some of these storms that come off the Baltic Sea here are actually little hurricanes like you'd get off of the Atlantic Ocean. The difference being is they come off of the Baltic Sea rather than the Atlantic Ocean, but it was a big storm, big enough for them to name the storm. I don't remember the name, but similar to how they name the storms in the Atlantic, this had a name. But nonetheless, it created a lot of damage, a lot of rain, a lot of wind. We were pretty lucky at home. We only had one small tree that got uprooted, but elsewhere in Lithuania, it was pretty bad. I think as of Sunday, or last Sunday, there were 200,000 homes without power. And today, again, is Thursday. There are still homes without power. That many days later. So it was a big storm. Again, we kind of lucked out. I had my my little power bank and my Honda generator on standby in case we lost power, but we never did. So I didn't have to use them, but it's good that I have them. And I'm pretty sure all of the storks have flown south. So they are gone, and we are losing several minutes of daylight each day. Each day the daylight hours get less and less, which means we have definitely turned a corner. Too early to start talking winter, but things are definitely starting to change around here. We'll start to see some leaves turning soon. Hi guys, as we start to clear out the garden and ramp things down, there's an annual thing I do. Is I move my past year's supply of compost into the garden. And this is what I ended up with. It's not a huge pile, but it's not a small pile either, but it's just gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous stuff. If you can see it, it's just maybe some of the best I've ever seen. It's just really nice compost. Obviously you mix that in with your soil to keep it kind of freshened up and add some nutrients back. We'll spread that around once we're ready to cultivate. But over here to the compost, and I'll warn you, it's not pretty to look at, but I didn't film the actual cleaning out of the compost. It's kind of a messy, smelly business that most of you don't want to see, but essentially the compost that I just showed in the garden was in this box and had been. That's basically started last spring, what I just moved. What's in the box here on this side was here, and I've basically just taken here and I flipped it and kind of just rotated it around a little bit, and this we'll keep adding to this throughout the rest of this summer, another few more weeks, and then we'll switch to a new box, and then this will end up in the garden next fall. So hopefully that makes sense. But compost, you know, it takes a while for it to be ready. You would be stunned to find out how much vegetation and things I have to throw in there to get just this much. I'd have to fill this box up probably 10 times to get that much compost. It really breaks down. And also worth mentioning is I did book my travel for a trip back to the USA late next month, which is September. The main goal is to get a quick visit in with my mom and sisters and their families, and also I've got some personal items I got to take care of that I can only take care of in the USA. I can't take care of them here in Lithuania, which is frustrating sometimes, but should be a good trip. On that note, I probably won't record much, if any, of that trip. But every once in a while somebody will ask me, you know, hey, you still doing the YouTube thing, or do you still enjoy it? And of course the answer is yes, I do enjoy it. And then they'll ask me, well, how long does it take you to edit one of your videos? Of course it depends on the video, but you know, it's more than you might think. Hours and hours go into, you know, editing and building a 20-minute video. But on that topic, a year ago, almost a year ago exactly, I'd been to the USA, and I did make a video of the entire trip, round trip, Lithuania to the USA and back. And it was by far the most labor-intensive editing process I've ever done in any video. I had hundreds and hundreds of clips I needed to go through and put together. And in the end, nobody really watched it. It wasn't popular at all. The odd thing is, I realize some of my videos aren't going to keep you on the edge of your seat. They're pretty simple, and I won't say boring, but not really exciting. But that video I was pretty proud of. I thought I did a nice job. I thought it was a good video. And again, nobody watched it. I'm not guilting you guys into going back and watching it, but if interested, like I said, it's from about a year ago, probably not too hard to find. I think it's called Trip to the USA or something like that. But check it out if anybody's interested in what it takes to get from Lithuania to the US and back.